Finland may not be neutral for very long. The country's president and prime minister have announced support for joining NATO, saying Finland should apply for membership without delay. Sweden is also taking similar steps to join the military alliance amid fears of a much larger and growing war. Joining us now to discuss, ABC News foreign correspondent Tom Burridge from Kyiv. Also, ABC News' Inez de la Quatera. She is live from Helsinki in Finland. Inez, let's start with you. Putin has already threatened Finland, and other neighboring states on the Russian border, saying a bid to join NATO actually represents a threat to Russia. So how close are we actually seeing Finland with regard to joining NATO, and what could be the likely consequences?
Hey, Kira. Yeah, so Russia has repeatedly said that Finland and Sweden joining NATO would be a red line, and Russia has threatened serious political and military consequences if Finland and Sweden decide to join NATO. The big irony here is, of course, that Putin, the whole reason that the war in Ukraine started was because Putin had said that the possibility of Ukraine joining NATO at some point later on posed an existential threat to Russia. And so if Finland and Sweden now decide to join, Putin will be getting the very thing that he worked so hard to prevent, and the very thing that he dreaded, which is NATO expansion. As far as what Russia will do next and whether Finns here actually worry about Russia's next step, it's a bit of a mixed bag. So I would say the vast majority of Finns we've spoken with are not worried. They say that Putin right now is too busy with Ukraine. And in fact, that's part of the reason there is such a push to join NATO right now. They feel Finland should take advantage of this moment to join NATO immediately because Putin is distracted with Ukraine. They think that if Russia reacts, it'll be in the form of some kind of cyber attack or maybe some kind of disinformation campaign. We did speak to one expert, though, who thinks that Russia does have to respond, that Russia has to do something because Putin has spent so much time talking about NATO and how NATO poses a threat to Russia, so he can't just sit back and watch this process unfold. This expert believes that if there is some kind of military action taken, it'll be either in the Arctic or that Russia may try to claim some island in the Baltic Sea.
Wow, stay tuned for that. All right. Well, Tom, this week, Ukraine's foreign minister actually communicated a desire for the country to become a candidate for EU membership. How likely is this to happen?
In the long term, Kira, I think it's possible, but in the short term, very unlikely. I mean, the French President Emmanuel Macron has said it's not going to happen for decades. And the reason is that if a state wants to join the European Union, it has to reach a strict set of criteria. And the one area that really Ukraine needs to do more work on, it's done some work on this since 2014, since it moved towards the European bloc in its politics, if you like, when it kicked out after the revolution just down the road from me against a pro-Russian president, Viktor Yanukovych. It has done some work to root out Soviet-era corruption, that kind of hangover from the Soviet era. But it needs to do more, I think, and that's why it's going to take more time. But for now, the European Union is supporting this country a hell of a lot. And we've just had some breaking news, actually, that the European Union is now looking at trying to come up with a plan to help Ukraine with that blockade of the Black Sea, because it can't get out its exports. And we're talking principally about agricultural exports, grain. They're looking at the idea of getting grain out via the roads and rail, but that would take a long time.
So, Inez, what has it been like for Finland? Give us a little context here, all these years, being Russia's neighbor and not being a part of any type of military alliance.
So because Finland had opted not to be a part of any military alliance, it had to learn how to fend for itself. So Finland came up with a whole system to prepare for the possibility of a Russia attack. And so I think the most striking part of the system is the vast network of bunkers that have been built here in Finland, and that has been expanding since the end of World War II. So there are actually 5,000 bunkers here in Helsinki, more than enough shelters to house the city's entire population. There are 50,000 bunkers across the entire nation of Finland. And here in Helsinki, a lot of these bunkers are actually connected via tunnels. And so they've come to be known as the underground city. We got to visit some of them. The city of Helsinki, because there's so much space that is going unutilized, the city of Helsinki has decided to repurpose some of these shelters and turn them into spaces for everyday public use. So we visited, an underground hockey rink, an underground playground. There was even an underground pool. And it just gives you a sense of how how bunkers have become really a part of everyday life here in Finland, and that is what it's like being Russia's neighbor. I will say it's not just bunkers. So Finland also has a very capable military. Conscription is still mandatory for men, and Finland has 900,000 reservists. So as we're talking about, Finland joining NATO, certainly that would be a good thing for Finland, but also a good thing for NATO in that NATO would acquire a nation with a very capable military.
Tom and Inez, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.